Hello. I wanted to give everyone an update on, really more than an update. I wanted to share probably a two-part video about from diagnosis to now, kind of what I've been thinking, why I decided to do a water fast. It's not something you hear a lot about. I've had a number of people say to me, I heard you were doing this and I was worried for you, or my friend was worried for you, and they talked to other people about it and found out there was a lot of actual research behind the effectiveness and why you would do this. And so I want to speak to all of it. I want to speak to why I did what I did, because I think it's important and it might be useful for other people. The route I went is not for everyone. Everyone's journey is unique and different. And so I just wanted to talk about all of those things. I actually, in my morning pages last week, made a ton of notes about all of the things I wanted to say. And I was kind of thinking back to my podcasting days and remembering this might be best as a two-parter. So buckle up if you're in for it. If you want, listen to it on double speed, triple speed, however you want to do it. I'm so grateful for all of the support I have received to help make it possible for me to take the last month off to get my nervous system in such a great place, because I feel like I'm in a really good place, and it's because I was able to do all of this. All that's to say, I feel a tremendous amount of love and gratitude. The way it came about that I did this fast, actually, after I announced it, that this is what I had, one of my clients, someone who'd been a part of Raw in the past and has been a part of my email list for a really long time, she shared a link to Dr. Katie Deming's work. And Dr. Katie Deming is this very incredible doctor who was a traditional oncologist, or in the oncology world traditionally, for 20 years. And she left the traditional oncology world and really realizes that integratively, it's not that she's throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but we need a more holistic approach to cancer and treating cancer. I don't want to put words in Dr. Deming's mouth, but the way I feel that this is going, there's lots of things that contribute to why people get cancer and why some people do and some people don't. I have zero history. There's no family genetics for breast cancer. I got genetic testing done. There's nothing genetically that would point to me having cancer. Nobody in my family has breast cancer. I do feel like, and I'm not blaming myself, don't take it as that, please. I'm not blaming myself, but I do know that living as an entrepreneur the past 8 years in such a way where I'm working 7 days a week, oftentimes, 80 and 90-hour weeks, working, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, rarely stepping away from my computer or teaching classes or coaching clients, just constantly on that treadmill to, my friend Jordan puts it, you can only eat what you kill, right? So I was in that, trying to hunt and to work and to just figure out how to make a living phase of my business. And I love my work. And I know that stress and the financial weight was a lot. It was a lot. And it, I'm sure, contributed to the cancer. But what happened was, when I got the diagnosis, I did a couple things. I immediately read the book Radical Remission, and now I'm stage 1. It's not, the C word is scary no matter what you get, but as far as diagnoses go, this is a really good one. It's stage 1. It doesn't appear to be in the lymph nodes. We won't know until we do the lumpectomy, but it doesn't appear to be in the lymph nodes. So that's really great, right? And I read Radical Remission, and this book is a comprehensive study that was done maybe 2015 timeframe of a lot of people who actually were in very late stages of cancer who experienced what is known as a radical remission. And so this researcher looked at the 9 things that all of those people would do that they had in common that would help lead towards a radical remission, the type of thing where doctors thought they were going to die. Now, that's not at all where I was, but I thought, like, I'm going to take my health into my own hands and take pages from their books and do what it said. So one of the first things is listen to your intuition. It is take your health into your own hands. So don't just take what the doctors say as gospel. Like, do your own research, take a look at things, make sure you are asking questions and advocating for yourself. And that listening to the intuition is really important. A lot of them took probiotics and supplements, changed their diet, did energy healing, cleared past energetic blocks and things like that were happening. So all of that started, that was like the very first weekend after my diagnosis that I read that book. And then my client sent me Dr. Deming's podcast, and she talked about how if she were to get cancer, the very first thing that she would do would be a 30-day water fast. And I listened to that podcast episode, and she also has a webinar that talks about the science behind it and why you would want to do that and why that's a good thing. And something clicked in me right away where I'm like, I really want to do this. I want to just start there. And I had this feeling of not wanting to get on. Now, to each their own. Everybody has their own path. I'm not saying my path is better than anyone else's. I know a lot of people have the feeling of, okay, let's get this out right away. Let's do whatever the doctors say. That's not me. That is not how I've ever approached anything in my life. I've got to start with what's the deep knowing inside of myself. So the deep knowing that I had inside of myself is that I think this water fast is the way I want to go. But then I had a meeting at the cancer center on the 23rd, and I knew that was like getting on this conveyor belt. And luckily my partner Philip was with me, and I brought up to the oncologist and my surgeon that I wanted to do a water fast, and they really poo-pooed it. They treated it like it was kind of crazy. They're like, what even is that? And I didn't feel like I was in a position where I could advocate for myself and say, let's kind of pump the brakes here because I want to do that first. But Philip listened, he took everything in, and then that was on a Wednesday. And then that Friday, Philip and I had a consultation call with Dr. Deming. And I'm really grateful that Philip was on that call with me. And Dr. Deming said to me, you can't work on this water fast. You really need to use that time for healing. And that scared the bejesus out of me. And the thing that I always tell my clients in life coaching is that the thing that scares you the most, as long as it's not going to hurt you, is probably the thing that you need to do. So even more than not eating for an extended period of time, which does sound a little crazy, I will say, but that was what scared me. And I was like, okay, this means I need to do it. So I had this initial gut punch. It felt like she'd gut punched me, to be honest, to say you can't work during that time. How am I going to take 30 days off? I mean, I've already got over $5,000 worth of medical bills I know are coming in just from that one time at the cancer center, and the biopsies. I had to have more than one biopsy. So the couple biopsies that I've had to have. I mean, as an entrepreneur that really lives sale to sale, that was terrifying. The amount of money that I knew I was going to be spending on that. But I knew that this cancer diagnosis, for me, I knew that it was, they say that first there's like the pebbles, and then you get the baseball bat, and then you hit the brick wall. I really felt like this cancer diagnosis was an opportunity for me to you know, there's so much. I've had a lot of friends diagnosed with breast cancer over the past 4 or 5 years, and a lot of people that I hold very dear. And the language of fighting, the language of like being at war, the fight like a girl, you're gonna fight this. I'm not fighting my body. I think if something's coming up in our bodies, it means that there's something we need to pay attention to. It's a wake-up call. And I chose to see this as the baseball bat wake-up call, it's not the brick wall. Stage 4 for me would have been a brick wall. This is a baseball bat of like, there are ways that you're living your life that are contributing to a high amount of stress. And they're things that, whether you like it or not, you do have control over, right? So it's that old adage of whatever you're not changing, you're choosing. And I know that there are things that make choices more difficult than others, but I didn't want to continue to choose this life of stress. And so in the discovery call with Dr. Deming, she said, if you're not going to change your life for cancer, if you're not going to pump the brakes for this, what are you going to pump the brakes for? And that did feel like a total gut punch to me. And I wanted to cry, to be honest. I mean, like, my work, my business, I do love it. I wouldn't spend 70 or 80 hours a week at something I didn't love. I love this work. And even though it doesn't pay very well all the time, sometimes it pays well, sometimes it doesn't, but most of the time it doesn't right now, I love it. And it feels like my business is 8 years old. So it kind of feels more like a toddler, and I don't have children. I love my work. I've wanted to put myself into my work full on. And so to step away from it was terrifying. And I'm also, I will say, addicted to the work of it. There was a ton of addiction behavior that I would get up and I'd be in my office 5 o'clock on. I'd eat all of my meals in front of my computer working. I'd be on my phone with email on my phone and Facebook and Instagram, and sometimes just scrolling, but really working a lot of times, trying to cultivate relationships, trying to market myself, things like that. And it just wasn't healthy to be on all the time in that way. Maybe it was working, maybe it wasn't, I don't know, but it was a lot. It was too much. I do feel like cancer for me is the symptom. It's not the disease itself. It's the word dis-ease, right? All of that, it's been a stressful road. So I feel like this diagnosis, the radical remission, and Dr. Deming, it was kismet that someone sent her information to me, because within a couple hours of that discovery call, I decided that I would do that fast. Now, I had not yet scheduled the lumpectomy. When I went to the cancer center, they said, all right, we're gonna do a lumpectomy, and then we're gonna do 4 weeks of radiation, and then you'll be on an estrogen blocker for 5 years. And I just really wanted to pump the brakes on that. And so I immediately, within 12 hours, decided that was what I was going to do. By the end of the weekend, I'd created a GoFundMe because I didn't financially have the resources. I mean, I paid probably total to Dr. Deming and getting everything I needed for the fast, because there were things, probably about $6,000. And that is on top of because it is a doctor supervised fast. Any fast, prolonged fast where you are not eating, where you are just having water, over 7 days, you really need to do that under doctor supervision. And in my past, I'll say a past life, I have disordered eating stuff. So I just wanted to make sure I was doing this really from a healthy perspective and way. And I really do feel like I did. And I actually feel like I healed some disordered eating stuff through this. But yeah, my biggest fear was, how do I take 30 days off? How am I going to financially pay for this non-insurance treatment? And the whole point of why you would want to do a water fast, well, there's many points, to be honest. A lot of people do it for what's called autophagy, and autophagy is like cell regeneration, right? So once you get past like 7 days of fasting, then your body starts to, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not saying you should do this, I'm not giving you medical advice or anything of that nature, but why a lot of people would want to do this is because after 7 days, your body is in ketosis and you're eating the fat cells, and then it starts eating the unhealthy cells. And eating the cells is really a simplistic way. It's not exactly what's happening, but your cells are regenerating that area. So maybe the fast shrunk it, maybe it didn't. I gained so much physical, mental, emotional benefit from the fast. To me, whether or not I shrunk it is neither here nor there. And I'll talk about why in a little bit. I'm not feeling like I need to hold on to that outcome. I really believe in what the Bhagavad Gita said. If anybody's read my book, Little Failures, I have a whole chapter of like, you do the thing and you release your attachment to the outcome of the thing. And that's very much where I am with that. Okay, so within a few days of deciding that I wanted to do that fast, I was getting a ton of support from all of you. Thank you so much, to move forward with the fast, financially speaking, from a perspective of the GoFundMe. I mean, that was just tremendous, that support. It felt like it was such a nod from like my community, my family, my friends, the universe, that yeah, you are supposed to be doing this, because the doors just opened wide financially to make something that felt pretty cost prohibitive possible for me. And that felt like the great creator was saying, move forward, do this. You're on the right path. It just felt like the synergy, right? It felt like, Julia Cameron in The Artist Way, which I was in the middle of teaching in Artist Way. I have incredibly talented friends who took over my group coaching. I teach a year-long program called Vision to Action. I had people within that group step up and facilitate for me. I mean, that's just incredible. I'm so grateful. And I really think the group probably really benefited from having different facilitators do that. And the same thing with the Artist Way group that I was teaching. I had some extraordinarily talented, everybody that facilitated is extraordinarily talented and wise. And I know that the group benefited from getting to have those additional perspectives happening because I stepped away. And what a lesson for me that it's okay to step away to take care of myself. Now, the other thing is energy work is really important. If you think about the book Radical Remission, energy work and doing energy work, you might call it prayer, you might call it love, you might call it Reiki, whatever you want to call it. I have worked with an incredible energy worker who I did my Reiki 1 and 2 certification with. Her name is Sky Bradshaw. She does tarot readings, she does Reiki, she does something called the Grove, which is incredible, and she teaches classes. She has been, in the past few years, certified in an energy healing modality called Jinshin, and it's a Japanese healing modality, and it helps you harmonize the body, and it is supposed to work really well when you have an acute thing. And she helped make it financially possible for me to come twice a week for this energy healing, and I'm still doing this energy healing. I had to pause a little bit during the fast, and there's twofold reasons for that, and I'll talk about that in a bit. But the Jinshin, she lays her hands on different energy points, and to me, you might be familiar with meridians. I don't know if it's the meridians, but that's what it seems like. It seems like acupuncture for the body, and instead of a needle, they're putting, different hands on different energy points within the body. So it's great. I was doing that. I knew that people who experienced a radical remission, they did different types of energy work. It wasn't all the same energy work. So I think it's what you believe in, what works for you. And that was really, really powerful. I made a commitment to myself when I decided to do the fast, when I got this cancer, that I was going to figure out, I was going to kind of go all in on the 9 things that people do when it comes to radical remission. And so the energy work, the fast, the listening to my intuition, and all of those things were really important to me. And I made the commitment to myself to figure out how to do that work financially, emotionally, spiritually, to do that work. And it also really helped. Philip was extraordinarily supportive of the fast. He knew that's what I needed to be doing. And when you're fasting, you can't really drive places. There's a lot. I'll talk a little bit more about like the ins and outs of the fast, but I knew I was going to need him to take me to my weekly lab appointment. I had to get my blood work done every week. And that was really the only place I was allowed to go each week. So that's why my Jinshin energy healing, one of the reasons why I stopped it during the fast, because when you do a prolonged fast like that, your electrolyte, if for some reason you were to get in some sort of car accident, you can't have an IV because that would mess up your electrolytes because you haven't been eating during that time. So that Philip's support in all of this was absolutely critical. I was told to treat the fast like a vision quest, and I really tried to stay as true to that, like making it sacred, not working, listening to my intuition. To prepare for this, I took my email off of my phone. I took Instagram off my phone. I took Facebook off of my phone because those were things I was addicted to. So taking all of those things off was really critical to breaking the habits of checking them, being on them, being available all the time. And I had to also tell myself that I didn't need to be available to everyone. Because I shared so publicly, so quickly about the diagnosis, I have had a tremendous amount of love and support. And it was also too much for this little introvert. I was not prepared for all of the calls and the text messages and the love. It's a weird thing to say, but I didn't feel like I could get back to people. I felt like I had to get back to people. And so I had to really give myself permission to not get back to people. I put an out of office responder on my email saying that I was on a healing project. And I get that terminology from the Jinshin that I do with Sky. She says that in Jinshin, they don't call it like, you're not fighting an illness. They want to take like a pro or a con, like any type of negative or positive emotion out of it. They want to make it really neutral. So they talk about it like you're just working on a project. I'm working on a healing project. And so that's really what I've talked about it as. I just knew that I needed to do this fast. And as soon as I made the decision that I would do it, and I feel like the universe nodded yes, and we just started moving forward with it. And I can't believe how much love and support I've gotten, because it's not just the medical bills and what I paid for the fast. It's like, how do you take a month or 2 months off of work? I mean, I'm probably going to have a lumpectomy, so that lumpectomy I'm paying for that too. And also, it means not working during that time, right? So one of the lots of things that I do, require me and my time. I trade my time for money. I don't have vacation time or sick time or FMLA or anything like that. So stepping away meant the support that I've received from so many of you, and I am so grateful. I'm so grateful. You made this fast that I just really finished possible, and it was, I'm just getting teary thinking about it. It was so tremendous. It was exactly what I needed, and I'll get into that in a minute. But I do want to just tell you about the ins and outs of the fast itself. Once I signed up for the fast, I found out that you can't brush your teeth on it. They want to get rid of the fluoride, that any chemicals, they want 0 chemicals on your skin being absorbed, right, through anything that absorbs. So I was not allowed lotion on the body. I couldn't wash with soap. Now, I washed my hands with like Palmolive and stuff like that, but I wasn't, and you're not supposed to take showers. Dr. Deming, I'm sorry, I took showers the whole time. But I felt great. Because this is the first thing I did, it's stage 1, I'm well. I feel very well. And my body loved fasting. And so I took a lot of showers. You're not supposed to. So I would say listen to what Dr. Deming says, do what she says if you are considering this. But so I would take showers but just water. And I got very cold intolerant during the fast. I did drop a lot of weight. So they say it's pretty predictable what happens in a prolonged fast. So the very first week you drop weight pretty quickly. So I was dropping about 1 pound a day in that first week. And then the second week, it was about 0.5 pound a day-ish. Some days would be 1 pound, some days would be almost nothing, but the second week and on, it really slowed down. And there was a bottom weight that they would pull you. But all of my vitals, every morning I had to take my blood pressure, my glucose and ketones. So I'd prick my finger and I would measure my glucose and my ketones and get the KGI. And I don't know a lot about those numbers. So all I know is that I was in a fat burning place. And, they're looking at trends. You're looking at your urine, you're looking at if you're having a bowel movement. And I did not have any bowel movements after I think it was the first or second day of the fast. That first, knowing that I was going to fast because I'm an avid coffee drinker, I did wean myself down to decaf. So 2 weeks before, I did half calf. And then the week leading up to the fast, I did all decaf coffee. And I had a slight headache that very first day. It was very, very slight. And then no headache. And I was probably dizzy and a little bit lightheaded the second and third day. Those were the 2 days that I felt the most side effects of dizziness and lightheaded. That first week I was doing puzzles, because I didn't know what to do with myself. You take a workaholic and you tell her she can't work, and I was told I could do light yoga, but because I was teaching, 3 yoga classes a week and then 3 private yoga classes a week, yoga felt like work to me. So even though it would have been good for my body, just some gentle yoga, it just felt like I was working when I did that. It didn't feel like a nourishing thing to do at that time for myself, even though, it might have been good for me. So that first week, I just sat and puzzled a lot. I did 3 1,000-piece puzzles. I listened to books. I really love audiobooks. I was listening to audiobooks and I was meditating. I started doing Joe Dispenza meditations for a lot. a lot. I was doing about 45 minutes of meditation every day. And it felt really good. But, I set an intention for myself with the fast of just deep healing. And being open. I think the intention was being open to what it had to teach me, being open to what the cancer had to teach me. I wanted autophagy. It would be so awesome if they go in on the 3rd. I'm going to have a radiation seed put in so that they know where the cancer is to take it out during the surgery. And if they said, we can't find it, that would be incredible. Again, I'm not attached to that outcome. I don't need to be attached to that outcome because, listen, modern technology is amazing. I'm not against it at all. And I know there's so many different things. I do also want to talk about water on the fast and the importance of water. So I did not have a Berkey. I did not have a water filtration system. And Greensboro doesn't have great water. I'm pretty sure it's probably that alone is cancer causing. They say it's fine, that our drinking water is fine, but how fine is it? And then, of course, I live in a home that's almost 100 years old. It's 90 something years old. And, how healthy are my pipes? Probably not super healthy. And so what that means is I should have a filtration system. So I did invest in a Berkey, and then, because you do need to drink filtered water, but that's just the first step. Then structure is really important, I've learned. So I had to get 2 devices for my water. So one is this thing called the Analama wand. And I will tell you, I was super skeptical at first of these 2 things because they're expensive. And like I said, there's a lot of bills that were already happening. And I'm like, can I cut the corner here by just filtering the water? Isn't that good enough? But if the only thing that you're putting in your body for, if you make it the full 30 days is water, don't you want that water to be the very best that it can be? Yeah, absolutely you do. So I had to get the Analama wand, and the Analama wand is like this crystal, and it helps bring coherence to your water. And they've done studies where when you bring coherence to your water, immediately after drinking the water, then they can see that you then have coherence from drinking that water in your body, which is just incredible. The other thing is that hydrogen infused water is really good for you too, which so interesting, right? So the hydrogen infused water, what that does, they recommended this device called the Echo Flask. And it's this thing that, so I'd use the Analama wand first because that will last indefinitely. Once you do that once, it's ready to go and will stay that way. And then the Echo Flask, and the Echo Flask puts hydrogen in the water, but that will only last for 2 hours. So my thing is I like to drink 3 32-ounce mason jars of water a day. So that puts me at 92 ounces of water a day, which is super good for your system. Now, everybody's body is different, and mine responds super well to that. So I would fill up 1 mason jar, do the Analama wand, and then pour the Echo Flask. I don't know how big it is, maybe about 10 ounces, maybe 15, I don't know. So I'd do that. It takes about 10 minutes to put the hydrogen into the water, and then I would pour that into another mason jar and just drink out of the mason jar because I don't like drinking out of the flask. So then I'd get my very structured water, and if our bodies are 80-90% water, that's important, that filtered, structured water with hydrogen. And hydrogen even has antioxidant properties to it. And they're doing a lot of research these days around these pieces of it. So my body was really liking I felt mostly great on every part of this fast. And by week 2, I had a ton of energy, like an extraordinary amount of energy. I'll tell you, I had more energy in that second week of the fast than I have had in years. And so if you're not working, I'm a runner, I'm an athlete, like to move. I like to do things. I take walks. I do yoga. So where does all of that go? And I started thinking about what's super important to me. What will be healing on this time? How do I want to invest my energy? And I don't think everybody would be able to do this on the fast, but it just so happened that because my body was responding the way it was, I was able to do this. But I decided I wanted to get back to the things that felt core to who I am. And one of the things that felt core to who I am is gardening. When I bought this house, part of why I purchased this particular house was, because there's a side yard, and my dad and mom came and we put in raised beds, and I'd planted a garden. So for like the first 5 years that I had this home, 6 years I had this home, I gardened every summer. And then I got away from that. And I went outside, and I am a mosquito magnet, and you can't spray yourself with anything. So I had to it was really warm this particular week. I had to put layers on. And I worked in the garden. I had dirt delivered from Lowe's, and I gardened and gardened and gardened, and I have a ton happening. And that feels like it connects me to my family. It connects me to my farming roots. It connects me to my ancestors who were farmers. It connects me to a lineage that's really important to me. And I'll tell you, I had some interesting dreams on this fast as well. So stay tuned. This is part 1, and I will give you part 2 shortly, and I will tell you about all of the other wonderful stuff from this fast and the other crazy things I did while I was fasting, because I did some crazy things.